Whether it's Uber or Airbnb, companies have long pushed the envelope, either in a technological sense or just in a business model sense, pushed the envelope with regulators. And my guest today, Chuck Pettit, is from a company called Republic that is making the news these days for pushing the envelope in a security sense. And I use the word security with quotes because I don't know if this is literally a security, Chuck, but basically Republic is doing something similar to what Robinhood is doing. It's also in the news, making essentially a derivative security without the company's involvement. So you can bet on the price movement of a pre-IPO share, in this case, SpaceX, without actually buying SpaceX. Chuck, how many errors have I made in that? Welcome first. And how many errors have I made in that summary alone?
No, it's all good, James. And thanks for having me. It is a security. It's actually a debt instrument. So we can go down that path. But no, I didn't have much off there. Just don't like to call it a derivative or a swap. It is not those.
It's not legally a derivative, but conceptually, like if someone's just jumping into the situation,
could see it like that.
Yeah, the rub is these private companies are very hard to get shares in. So somebody says, hey, man, I really want to buy SpaceX. I really want to buy ByteDance. I really want to buy whatever, but I just can't get shares. And you're saying, hey, let's make a way where you can invest some money now at what we believe the current share price is. It's a little more fuzzy with a private company, but at what, the best estimate of the current share price. And when that company does an IPO, you'll get paid the difference. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, we're trying to mirror the results of private companies, but in a way through a security and security exemption that allows everyday individuals to participate, where nearly all, if not all, private securities, especially using certain exemptions, are not available to everyday investors. Yes, we at Republic have been one of the longest standing crowdfunding platforms in the world, investment crowdfunding platforms in the world. And we do bring securities exemptions forward on private companies that allow individuals to participate. But a lot of companies won't use those methodologies. Unfortunately for investors, a lot of companies that are highly sought after won't use an exemption that would make them and make their security available to most people in the world, regardless of wealth. So it's a real challenge that we wanted to take head on and bring to individual investors because there is a high demand for it. And by the way, James, I'm not trying to project investment advice. This is not investment advice. Just explaining the story of Republic and these securities that we've recently forayed into.
Certainly. And I'm glad you mentioned Republic in that context, because if someone, again, is just new to the situation, you guys are a crowdfunding platform. And let's say I've got some new idea for a type of soap, and maybe I've got a social media following and they're going to buy my soap, and I could register some shares to sell. I could fundraise on Republic, basically, get some money, get some publicity. That's kind of like, and maybe it's not just soap, maybe it's sexier things, but that's like the bread and butter of a crowdfunding platform. This is a little different, though.
It still fits within the same vein, and I hope you'd bring something a lot more attractive and venture fundable than a soap company. But
it could be good soap, Chuck.
Could be really great soap. But no, yeah, we are industry agnostic. We do bring from tech to healthcare to consumer product to sports teams and music and film, and you kind of name it. But again, these companies that a lot of people are trying to get into, you mentioned a few: SpaceX, ByteDance, Anthropic, et cetera, OpenAI, and other private companies that are very difficult for people to get their hands on. Even some of the richest people in the world, it's difficult for them to get.
And OpenAI is even kind of like a quasi, I guess it's sort of profit, not really. I mean, it's the entity itself is kind of wonky too.
Yeah, no, important point there. And just like that company, and just like Republic, and just like Republic securities and products that we put forward to the public, they are subject to change. We are always doing our best to properly disclose that and share that information. So always, check out the deal page, the disclosures, the forms, the filings, etc. Super important for investors to check that out too.
So the key point is you can buy shares and let me just again, I'm big on setting the
Yep.
stage today for some reason, maybe because this is kind of a technical area for a lot of people. In the old days, all the best companies would go public. That's just kind of what you did, right? And so if a company was public, it was like the best and the brightest. That's changed quite a lot these days.
That
Companies
is
say,
near the opposite, right?
yeah, yeah,
Most companies are staying
they stay
private.
private as long as they can. If they don't need to go public, they don't go public. And if they keep getting these gargantuan funding rounds from private equity, hey, why bother with the expense, with the scrutiny, with the mental energy of being public? And so, okay, I can understand from their perspective. But if you're one of these little guy retail investors, well, hey, you lost out, right? You
Yeah,
guys
you
are
lost
saying
that.
not anymore. Go ahead.
Yeah, you did. You can't get proper exposure to your portfolio. You're missing out on great opportunities. From a wealth and income perspective, you're scrambling to replace those with opportunities that may be subpar to it. So you're right. There's a lot of brain damage and a lot of cost and a lot of other pain that comes with going public. I do hope that our government regulators in the U.S. to start figure that out and start to give a better path to companies to IPOing. In the meantime, there are compliant alternatives, which is one of the ways that we've come up, or some of the things we actually focus on at Republic. In
Mhm.
this particular security, by the way, I just want to go back into a little bit more on the technical side of it. I did mention it is a debt instrument. And you're probably wondering, well, how's a debt instrument going to reflect a private company like a SpaceX? Well, uh, just keep in mind that Republic, we will hedge our risk appropriately to ensure that we can meet our payout obligations.
So
Whenever the
you
top
owe the debt. That's the
we own it,
Republic owes
right?
the
But
debt. If the company goes to the moon, you guys are on the hook for whatever that delta
and
is.
we've hedged it appropriately, and then we
Mhm.
have the ability to make those payments per the agreement with the investor.
How do you hedge it? I'm just curious. Like, is there a counterparty that willing to take the other side?
There's various methods, and we will obviously disclose those when we do go. Right now, these campaigns are under what's called testing the waters. It's proof of
Mhm.
concept. We are learning from retail investors, and even high net worth and other institutional investors are participating in these as well. But we're learning from them that there is like actual proper demand for these, investment opportunities. When we do take it live, there has to be filings with the SEC in order for that to happen, which is a process that we will go through in the very near term. And then at that point, we also disclose how we're going about that. I mentioned subject to change is because this is very fluid. This is the first time that the market has ever seen anything like this. So we're keeping open and honest dialogue discussions going with internal counsel, external counsel, with regulators and others that have a stake in this to make sure that we are bringing something to investors that's proper.
Chuck, I've talked before about this, and I believe that interest is strong from the investors, which makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense to me, and I would expect that. And good for you guys for bringing a popular market to product in that perspective. How do regulators feel about this so far? For whatever you can share, maybe you can't share anything, and how do the companies feel about this?
Those are ongoing conversations. I can go to one that was, it was on CNBC. Chairman Paul Atkins recently spoke not directly about Republic or directly about any Republic products. The view and what I gathered from it was that he likes innovation like this, and his administration, his office likes administration like this, and intends to work with companies who are pushing the envelope similar to what we're doing. We'll see if that actually happens or not. It's good to hear. It's been a while since a regulator has actually spoken to that tune before.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, of course, if it fits within the law, if it's within it's compliant and within regulations, they should want to work with us. So we're keeping it within those parameters in our view, and over time, there will be other views and other considerations. That's why I mentioned a couple times, not subject to change, but we'll be open to those because we want to see this through, because we know how important it is to investors. They really, really want this stuff. So and it
So
makes sense.
tenor is positive on regulators, it sounds like, and this is probably the best time in many years to be trying something like this. What about the companies?
So companies, the key to this is companies participating alongside us. That will be the
Hmm.
key to this product offering in the future. We are seeing a large number of companies who want to. That's a great sign for the consumer, for investors, for the retail audience.
And how would they participate exactly? Meaning, let you hedge with them in some capacity? Like, what does
Give their,
participation
I
mean?
mean, they're going to give it if they give it their blessing, and I think that also is a eye opener to regulators who probably need to make adjustments to exemptions to process to
Yeah.
making these available to investors under the current regulation scheme. That can happen, but without those companies supporting this and participating in it in that sense, they probably won't act on it. So it does take just like us in 2016, 2017. It was, to be honest, difficult to get any company to move forward, let alone like high quality companies. But once one came, another one came, and then they started pointing fingers at it, and that snowballed into dozens, and then hundreds, and then you all of a sudden have a industry where there are hundreds upon hundreds, and even if not that, thousands upon thousands of high quality companies in the private space who are working with and receiving investment from a retail audience. It just takes some time, but once it does, I think in this sense, these business leaders with their weight that they have in their business and the type of capital and the type of muscle power they have, I think you can actually see pure regulatory change that benefits retail investors and their ability to be able to actually have these assets, which is quite powerful.
Yeah, many innovative ideas were mocked until it became obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it sounds like the jury is still out on the companies. Let me shift to the exchanges, because if I'm ICE, right? If I'm a stock exchange company, probably the argument that I'm going to make is, hey, look, we have spent decades evolving this very protective regulatory framework for retail investors so they don't blow themselves up. We have very strict disclosure rules. A lot of these crowdfunding platforms, you could argue, are more akin to consumption,
Yep.
especially on the small level. A lot of these things blow up, and now these guys are ultimately, if this thing just goes crazy, who really needs a stock market, right? Like they could be saying something like that.
You go to the
What would
private
you?
methodology where they still provide liquidity to their investors, and they can also raise additional capital through a model or an ecosystem like Republic. For sure, that's something that we're thinking about and want to be and want to service the private markets, in that vein. You mentioned secondary, so automated trading systems, or an ATS, is the license required to have
Mhm.
or have secondary activity, or at least automated secondary activity, and it's very specific. Extension to that license is called a digital ATS. That's where you can have digital securities listed. This product that we put forward is on chain, so it's a digital security.
Mhm.
Again, I mentioned it was a debt instrument where we are guaranteeing the economic outcome to those individual holders. By the way, it does have a 20-year time horizon. So if the company never goes IPO, so first of all, let's say it does go IPO within those 20 years, we would pay cash, the cash difference to the individual investor. If
So
they
importantly, I don't get any share. Just to be clear, I get cash,
cash,
whatever that spread is, basically.
right, and then if for whatever reason all these amazing companies who've already been private for a really long time don't actually go public, are not publicly available for trade, at the end of 20 years, the debt instrument with Republic, the investment contract, expires. At that point, we will pay cash at the fair market value determined by a third party source. So a third party will value it. That will be considered the fair market value. Then we will pay that amount in cash to these security holders.
Got it. Whatever the estimate, and I'm sure there can be contention about that, but in good faith, you'll try to find a third
Third
party
party help,
valuation
right?
firm who can say, okay, the shares are probably worth this much, and here's what we'll pay. What if there's an IPO and there's a down round? Do you guys benefit?
No, we're not benefiting up or down. Depending if the price goes up or down, we're not going to benefit from that. Us personally, the
No, I
investors
wouldn't have to pay. Like if the last funding was $100, and I'm
you
hoping the
came in at
IPO is
100
at,
and it came back at 50, and then you would get
yeah,
50.
and then the IPO is at 80 or 50. Like, do I have to
Then
pay you guys?
you get yeah, your 50 or 80 back on the 100 that you put into it. Similar to if you made an investment in a private company or even a public company that you put $100
Yeah,
into, then you trade it the next day for 50, you're getting 50
things
back.
go up and down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, my gain would, I mean, not that I'm thinking about taxes yet, but if I do make a gain, it would be ordinary income tax, I guess.
I'm not a tax man, but
Hmm.
I think that, yeah, the long
It
term
sounds
short.
like it because I don't have an
Yeah.
actual principal investment. just from what you're describing. This is kind of a new area, though.
Well, it's a debt instrument, so there's going
Yeah.
to be treatment for that too.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Last question. Robinhood is doing something similar, though. I believe with public stocks. I haven't followed their stuff as closely. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How do you feel about that?
I'm definitely across it. I feel it makes me feel good that they also went for, and they did it a few days after we did. They went with SpaceX and OpenAI in a very similar model.
Oh, it is private companies. That's right. Okay.
It is private companies, and they only opened up that product to European clients of theirs.
Got it.
So they focused on Europe. We focused on North America, or on the U.S. Over time, I think you'll see, Robinhood will come back to the U.S. and Republic will go to Europe. And
would you feel angry with them? Like I say, you blaze this regulatory trail in the U.S. Then once they see that you, the little guy, have proven it's workable, then they come and they put all this marketing muscle behind their offering.
No, I would not be. There are a lot of things that we have that they don't. Whether that be the different licenses we have across the primary and secondary spectrum, the licenses that we have globally in addition to Europe. So there are, and they have a lot too, obviously.
To be clear, they couldn't do it exactly like you're doing it. Is that true?
They could not, no. So the securities exemption that we focused on in the U.S. is called Regulation CF, or Regulation Crowdfunding. Important aspect of that is under Reg CF, those securities are allowed to be listed on a secondary exchange. And then because we have these exemptions on chain, that goes back to it only being available on a digital ATS, which most companies in the world don't have. There's only a handful of those out there that have ever gotten a license.
Got it. And how long, like if Robinhood wanted to do this, just out of curiosity, I mean, is it years to get, months?
I think we have a solid 6, if not 12 to 18 month head start on this.
In this day and age, that's a decent amount of time, actually, that you could build.
It is, especially as quick as we move and want to move, at least in times.
So, Chuck, if someone is hearing this saying, hey, this sounds pretty cool, I've long admired these companies and wished I could have gotten in, but couldn't. And even though I understand I'm not actually buying the shares, I'm kind of buying something that's sort of equivalent to the economic exposure of the shares. It's a debt instrument through Republic, and I understand there's counterparty risks, but I understand it's hedged, all those things. And I understand also that James and Chuck are not giving me individual investment advice throughout this conversation. If that person is listening and wants to learn more, where would you send him or her?
It's a great chance to learn because, like I said, these campaigns are not officially live. We've not made the filings with the regulators yet. We're still going through the motions and making sure that we're doing this right. So right now it's just under testing the waters where you leave an indication, but you also get a great chance to learn. So go to republic.com, just republic.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. From there, you click through and you'll be on another where you'll learn as much as you want. You'll see a lot of different companies that I'm sure you're familiar with and can learn even more from there.
Sounds good, Chuck. It is easy to be a curmudgeon in this space. Oh, what's this newfangled thing? But newfangled things are how progress happens. So kudos to you guys for pushing this envelope like this.
Thank you. It's been a very cool 10 days. I got to say that for sure. Just Google the company Republic. Believe it or not, that simple of a word, you'll still find us, even if it's a very vague word, but you'll still see it. And
that shows the waves you're making. So, Chuck, thank you very much for taking your time. Good luck with this security. It's fair to call it security. And thanks to you guys for watching us at home.